Patty, you're going to get an alert. That's
There we go.
okay. So happy Wednesday, everyone. Thank you for tuning into another edition of Lunch Bites. Today, I have a guest, which is always nice. I love when we can bring people into the group and kind of expand our network of resources for sure. So I'm really excited to introduce you to Patty McMahon. She is a certified wellness coach who helps women say goodbye to mommy's wine time. And she has a great little presentation for you today, along with some great resources that you can put to use. This is something that you feel resonates with you. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Patty. I'm going to put it in speaker view and go on ahead.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be here because I love sharing knowledge. I was a former educator in the public school system, and I just love helping my clients now learn more about the impacts of alcohol in their life. And so I want to right off the bat, I'm not trying to talk anybody into like abstaining from alcohol forever, because I know that everybody is on their own journey. Everybody has their own idea of what wellness means to them and living well. And that's a-okay. You're here on this planet in this time, in your body, experiencing life, and it's your journey. It's your time here. So I just want to put that out there, that this isn't an abstinence program or informational series. What I want to do is educate you a little bit about what's going on in your body when you drink, because the science has changed. 20 years ago, when I was learning about what alcohol does to you in one health class in high school, the focus was really about the impacts of your liver and how it's bad for your liver. But with advancements in neuroscience, and the more we're learning more about all of our bodies as technology advances, the information is kind of outdated. And so that's one thing that I wanted to share with you guys today. And also, why is it hard to lose weight when you're trying all of the things? I've been trying to get rid of my mom bod for quite some time, doing all the beach body workouts and all of the long walks and strollers, eating healthy, all these things, and still not really seeing any gains. And I know that some of you here might be feeling that same way too. And so taking a look at maybe our relationship with alcohol might be an indicator of maybe that's part of your hang up on why you're not seeing your gains and hitting your targets that you want to be. And then I want to talk a little bit about the stigma of alcohol and why it's hard to really address our issues with alcohol. And then what do you do? What do you do when you want to cut back or quit or take a break? So how do you manage that? So moving forward really quick, I have a ton of information and I want to utilize your time on here. So getting started with, why is it that it's hard to lose weight or hard to really see your gains in the gym? And alcohol might be the culprit when you're doing everything else. And I'm going to break this down into 3 C's. So calories. Obviously, calories, you're drinking empty calories. There is not a nutritious value or anything good that alcohol is doing for you in that sense of giving you support with. We used to think that a glass of wine was good for your heart. Well, come to find out, there's an enzyme in grapes that actually is good for your heart, but you would have to drink like gallons of grape juice in order to feel that effect or get that benefit. And actually, it's better to eat the grape than it is to drink wine. And so there's been some misconceptions in the medical community, like one little fact or one little headline, and then it shapes this perception on what's going on. So really, there's no health benefits in drinking wine except for what it does for like your personal belief system. So the empty calories for one glass of wine, it's 125 calories for a 5-ounce pour. And I don't know about you guys, but I would say I'm having a glass of wine and I would pour more than 5 ounces, because 5 ounces is a very small amount. And I wanted that relief to be like, this is my Friday night. I'm going to have a big glass of wine. And so, really, I was doing myself a disservice, and you might be fudging a little bit of your caloric intake when you say, oh, I'm just having one, but you're actually doing more of a pour. What happens when you are drinking too, you often will start wanting to eat different foods, or if you have more than one, because Friday night might be your night to like let loose a little bit more, you might end up eating nachos later because you're hungry, and then the next day you wake up, everybody knows what a hangover feels like. And so it just kind of sets this motion. So caloric intake kind of leads into control. The second C, it's hard to control your intake of alcohol because of what's physically happening inside of your body. So alcohol is ethanol. It is a chemical depressant. So it's not the type of depressant that you feel like Eeyore, why bother? It's the chemical depressant. So it slows down your central nervous system, your brain and your spinal cord, and all of the nerve endings that send messages out to the rest of your system. And so when your brain realizes it's slowing down with the depressant, as you ingest a depressant, it will start filling up to create homeostasis, or create a balance. So it'll match what you intake with stimulants and hormones. One of them is cortisol. We'll get to that in a second. And so the depressant, as it wanes down and you're feeling relaxed and you're like, yeah, you start, I don't know if you've noticed, but maybe 20 minutes after you've had a drink or after you started drinking, you kind of start feeling this like energy pent up, and you're like, this is exciting. That's the stimulants in your system, your brain waking up, and your brain saying, uh-oh, we slowed down too much, and now my job is to keep you alive. So I need to pump myself up and make sure I'm awake for this. But then you're like, well, I feel good. Let's keep the party going. And then you have another drink, stimulants and hormones are matched up, drink fades, then you're left with more. And you do this dance until there's other things going on. That's a very simple explanation for a complex thing that's going on in your body. And in my 21-day dry challenge, I explain all of the details on that and what happens in your body. And we chunk it out into days. So it's not really a dry challenge to not drink those 21 days. That's ideal, but it's more about educating yourself about the effects of alcohol and what's really going on physiologically and what's happening. Because I don't know about you, I thought that my wine was actually relaxing me. And physiologically, what's happening is it's producing anxiety, and in producing stress when you drink. So there is a moment of relaxation, but it's actually setting your system up to live in a stress bath, because the hormone that's released, the other C, is cortisol. So cortisol is puts you in this fight, flight, or flee sort of state of being. And when you drink regularly, your brain gets sensitized to your habits. And so if you always drink every Friday night for your celebration day, for doing all of the hard work that you did during the week, your brain starts to pick up on that. And so it's actually storing this cortisol in your brain to be released when you ingest this depressant. So what also happens is you're having a week, things seem to be going wrong. Your perception of what is stressful starts to shift, and somebody lands more work on your plate. What do? And you're really stressed out. You're like, I'm just going to have a drink tonight. And so you start going down the slippery slope because you're soaked in cortisol. Now with weight loss, women over 35, which that's me, And many of you here, once you hold on to it, when you're in a stress bath like that, your body gets signaled and it holds on to energy, AKA fat. And it stores it in your stomach, your butt, and your thighs. And so it's storing it, it's doing what it's designed to do, because when we're in heightened stressful situations, your sympathetic nervous system doesn't know when you're going to get energy again, when you're going to get food again. So it stores it in there. And again, this is a very simple explanation for more details of what's going on, but we hold on to that weight because that's what our body is trying to do. So no matter what we feel like we're doing right all the time, alcohol can impact your weight loss journey, because you're in this heightened stressed state of being, and you keep putting yourself in there again with your routines of your wine intake or whatever alcohol. I was just a wino, so I'm using that as an example, but so that might be the issue. So what do you do if you are looking at like, okay, well, I don't want to give up my wine, but I know that what Patty's describing right here is something that I know I kind of need to tweak a little bit here and there. And I want to just talk briefly about the stigma between alcoholism and alcoholic, because I think that our society has had this like very black and white view of what people who might have a problem with the way they're drinking and what to do about it. We kind of tend to think that, I know I had this belief that I'm not an alcoholic because I'm not hitting rock bottom, and I don't need it to survive throughout the day. I can function. There's days when I don't drink, so I don't have a problem. So I'm a normal drinker. So I'm going to keep drinking the way that I'm always drinking because that's what people do, and that's normal, and that's okay. But actually, I'm seeing myself slip. I'm seeing myself get sneaky with my drinking, like over pouring, saying that I'm pouring more than 5 ounces of a glass, right? That's a little sneaky. You're like, it's just one, but it's actually more than what the caloric intake is for that. Or you wrap up your wine bottles in the trash can so nobody can hear them clink when they go out. Or you switch up store clerks, like when you're at the store because you're buying another bottle of wine and you don't want them to know. These little sneaky things that might happen that you're starting to do are little red flags. Also, what are red flags are waking up and thinking, what did I say last night? Is my husband mad at me? Or kind of living in that fret zone. Or it's become more of like it was a social thing, and now it's become something that you want to do alone on your couch by yourself to decompress, and that seems to be the only thing that you want to do. These red flags right here are all gray area drinking red flags. Now, what the heck is that? Gray area drinkers are the bulk of people who use alcohol. It is the area on the alcohol use spectrum that you drink socially, you drink situationally, and you might not have like a big problem with it, but as time goes on, you kind of move down the line and your alcohol consumption becomes more or more frequent. Very often during the holidays times, we find ourselves drinking more and more because we're having more social parties, more time to de-stress, more time, more celebration time. So that would like put you on this alcohol use spectrum further. And I'm going to back up a second, because doctors were seeing people come in with these alcohol related health problems, but they didn't fit the criteria for alcoholic and or for being labeled with alcohol, like an alcoholism disorder. And so they were like, how do we help people and like code this and talk about this and define it? And so since like 2015, 2016, so it's fairly new, is this alcohol use spectrum. And if you don't drink, you're at 0. And then you move through these situational and have frequency stuff. If you're happy to, or if you want to learn more about that, I am happy to talk more about that with you. You can DM me and I can send you some resources and links and we can keep that discussion going. But most people live there. And then on the extreme end is the alcohol use disorder. And that has different levels on the spectrum of mild, medium, and severe. And severe are those people who like wake up and they need it. If they don't have it, they start hallucinating. And that's a very, 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 very small portion of the population. But need to seek your medical professional to get a formal diagnosis. But most people live in this gray area where we know it's starting to take control over our life. We know we're thinking about it more and more. We find ourselves saying things like, I can't wait for happy hour tonight, or because of dealing with stress in our lives, or we use it to celebrate stuff more and more frequently, that we just know it's starting to become part of our lifestyle so much. So I work with gray area drinkers in this capacity of trying to take a closer look at our relationship and figure out, what is it that I believe alcohol is doing for me? What is it really doing for me? And then how do I want it in my life? And so, so you can live the way you want to. You can show up and have a meaningfully fulfilled life where you're fit, happy, healthy, and you're engaged in the present moment with the people you love. So our terms and definitions of what alcoholism is changing and shifting. And now there's more and more resources for becoming sober curious. So how do you cut back, and maybe take a longer break to kind of see how you want alcohol in your life? Well, there's this movement, so be sober curious. And it's really taking a look at your relationship by asking yourself those questions. What do I believe it's doing for me? What is it really doing? And that kind of thing. And once you start getting curious, then you want to create distance between you and the drink. And to do that, you kind of surf this urge. And in my 21-day challenge, we have lots of strategies that I go into detail with. And for your audience, if you're interested, I have a resource, 10 things to try before opening the bottle. But the point is that you have this habit of, say, opening up a bottle of wine during dinner, and then that becomes your ritual. And so you start trying to create distance between your habits and get really mindful on what's going on. And my favorite one I want to share with you today is playing the movie forward. When you stop and think about what it's going to do, what the next thing is that's going to come from having a sip of wine, and you move yourself through the day, the evening, and the next day, or however long you want to play that movie forward for, you start to get real and honest with yourself about what the evidence of your life is right now, instead of what you think the evidence is. So, in doing that exercise, it would look like this. You're about to open the bottle of wine and you're like, okay, well, what will happen after I pour the drink? Well, I'll sip it. Then how will I feel? I'll feel grateful that I have this moment to myself where I can enjoy this taste. Okay, and then what will happen? I'll drink half of my glass and I'll chop some veggies, and then I'll want to drink more. And then I'll almost be done with my glass of wine feeling good. And then I'll consider, should I have another one? What can I cut out of my diet tomorrow so I can have this other glass of wine? Well, you start negotiating with yourself, and then what? You talk yourself, I'm going to talk myself into having another glass of wine. And then you keep moving through like that, through this mindful process of honesty. What's really going to happen when I drink? And then see that it's actually not what you want to do. you do want that moment to yourself where you feel like, everything is okay. And wine has become that stress reliever for you. But when you learn how the physiological side of it, it's really not stressing, it's stressing you out more. And so how can you then replace the wine or still get that feeling? So you can do different things to wind down, such as take a walk before you cook, disrupt that pattern. Like James Clear says, if you want to change your habit, you kind of have to either make it the new habit easy, or you have to really kind of just disrupt and do something different. So going for a walk, or even replacing that wine with something else that's tasty. I used to drink tart cherry kombuchas while I cooked dinner, and that was like satisfying and refreshing because it had that to it. But finding what you like to kind of replace the drink, or disrupt your routine. And when in my coaching practice, that's kind of what we try to figure out. What is it that you do normally? How can we switch it up? And so you can kind of get more distance. It's kind of like breaking up with in a relationship. Like you kind of have to, it's not that you want to say goodbye forever, but you also know that you need some separation in order to get some clarity. And so that's what really that process is like. It's not saying see you later, never coming back, but it's also, do I really want this? How do I really want this in my life? And what is it that I'm really looking for? And then but to replace your drink, I got a little lost because there's so much information, but the zero, low or no alcohol beverage industry is like booming. It is, people are coming up with new drinks all the time, ready to go drinks. And the NA beer market is actually creating so many delicious beers. It's not just O'Doul's anymore. In fact, Athletic Brewing Company, I'm not trying to plug like because I'm an affiliate or anything, but there are beer companies out there that are making tasty drinks that don't have that alcohol in it, and or have very low traces of it. So you can start maybe experimenting, and instead of pouring that glass of wine, maybe try a different dealcoholized wine first. Or if you want that one glass and you find yourself in the tendency to be like, oh, I know I'm going to have two, maybe the second one that you have is the alternative. They also have zero proof liquors coming out, so you can try experimenting with different drinks in that capacity to discover what it is that you really like. You like that celebration, that relaxation, and that fancy glass often. So I think that by really playing the movie forward, maybe trying out a different routine, and supplementing with other tasty things, you'll start to find that alcohol has less impact physiologically in your system, and you might see the gains and the weight loss that you're looking for if you're doing everything else, and making all of those changes. That it might be something to look at if you want to live a more well-rounded, healthy life.
Awesome. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. So many things resonated with me, and I'm sure for many of our group members. Some of the things we've definitely touched on, but I think you gave people a lot to think about, and a lot to consider. I will drop your link into this post, and once I have it posted up on YouTube as well, so they can find you, follow you. I know you have a couple of freebies, so I hope people will take advantage of that. But if you want to just quickly tell people where to find you.
Sure. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook at PMAC Insights. I also write on medium.com under PMAC Insights or Patty McMahon. It's there that I kind of explore a lot of those scientific things that I was talking about and write them in little articles. So if you are interested, feel free to follow me and then DM me. And with any questions that you have, I'm happy to answer them and sort of keep this conversation going and give you some resources, because it is a whole new world now about the alcohol movement. Really, sober movement is what some people are calling it. And again, that might sound so like abolitionist and all that, but I think that people are just really appreciating more choices. It's not so much about just like always like quitting. It's about more of having more options and choices to like live the life that you want to live. And so you have to kind of discover that on your own terms. And that's what I'm all about with my coaching practice is what do you define as wellness, and how does alcohol play in that factor? And so a lot of my people do want to end up saying goodbye to mommy wine time, but there are people that I work with that are just starting to get curious and explore and see where it leads them. So I'm happy to answer any questions and keep it going. So I look forward to hearing from you guys on.
Yes, please, you guys, reach
yeah.
out. This is, I'm all about teamwork. So please reach out, because Patty is definitely an expert, in this area. So if the stuff that she talked about today resonates with you, give her a follow, reach out, download the free stuff that she has to offer, and, definitely consider her 21-day challenge as well. So thank you again,
so
Patty.
much. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, great.
All right, take care.
Bye.